Welcome to the May 5th meeting of the SRWA Board. It is 12 o'clock and we are about to get started, so I'm just going to hit the gavel. Meeting open, there we go. So do we have any public comments? No? Okay. We'll move on to item 1 then. Consideration and possible action on approval of the April 7th, 2025 board meeting minutes.
I move to approve. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. On to item number 2, the general manager's report. And first we'll start with the operational chemical optimization and financial report.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Jacob Galvan, and I'll be presenting the production distribution report for the month ended March 31st, 2025. On page 2 of your board binders, we have the SRWA water distribution summary and true-up estimate. I'll start on column C, where we have the SRWA total distribution. The year-to-date is 1,228.647 million gallons, for a daily average of 6.751 million gallons. On column F, I have the distribution for BPUV. The year-to-date is 1,134.301 million gallons, for a daily average of 6.232 million gallons. On column G, we have the distribution for Valley Mud number 2. The year-to-date is 25.506 million gallons, for a daily average of 0.14 million gallons. The distribution for Los Rednos on column H, the year-to-date is 40.581 million gallons, for a daily average of 0.223 million gallons. On column I have the credit for B&D. The year-to-date is 25.801 million gallons, for a daily average of 0.142 million gallons. On column J, we have the allocation for Indian Lake. The year-to-date is 2.458 million gallons, for a daily average of 0.014 million gallons. Below we have the true-up estimate, where VPV is under by 7.24 million gallons. VMA number 2 is under by 5.33 million gallons, and the city of Los Rednos is over by 12.57 million gallons. On the next page, we have the production and distribution report for the month of March. On the third column from the left, we have the SRWA total water produced. The total was 213.965 million gallons, for a daily average of 6.902 million gallons. On the first column to the right, we have the total water distributed. The total was 212.796 million gallons, for a daily average of 6.864 million gallons. Below we have the chemical consumption costs. The cost was $95,537 with 45 cents. And below that we have the electrical consumption cost, which was $72,469 with 84 cents. On the next page we have events that reduce water production. For the month of March, there was no plant shutdowns. On the next page, we have the iron, manganese, and arsenic analysis. There were no adjustments to the chemicals for the month of March, and all the analysis were within the standards. On the next page, we have the R and well pump statuses for the time of collections for the analysis. Those that were on, the ROs that were on. On this slide, we have a graph just showing the manganese levels The blend at 10%, and the manganese levels. On this side, we have the arsenic levels, the ferric at 1.3 and the chlorine dioxide at 0.3. The levels are still within standards. On this page, we have a graph comparing the water production and distribution for fiscal years 24 and 25. And on this slide, we have a graph comparing water plant production for the 3 water treatment plants, where you can see SRWA contributed with 31.18% of Bronzo's water demand. Are there any other any questions or comments? This concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and members of the board. My name is Jorge Santillan, Finance Manager. I will go over the financial report as of March 31st, 2025. I'm beginning with the operating revenues and expenses, and we're going to be looking at the last column. First, we have the operating revenues from member assessments, totaling $3,945,000. From here, we are at I'm sorry, we back out the line number 10, total operating expenses of $2,570,084. This results in the operating income of $1,330,261. We continue on the following page on the non-operating revenues and expenses. Here we at the net, line 18, net non-operating revenues of $80,566. This results in the line number 19 of income before capital contributions of $1,410,827. There were no capital contributions, so we result in a change in net position of $1,410,827. We add this amount to the line 22, the net position at the beginning of the year of $24,534,856. This results in a net position at the end of March of $25,945,683. The following 2 pages, this is budget and actuals summary of expenses by account. And this is the end of the presentation. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question, if nobody else does. Okay. Can you tell us chemicals other, what we're spending over budget for? It is line 7293, or item 7293. Like, what are those chemicals? That, yeah.
Sometimes we buy chemicals for washing the membranes or membranes.
Okay, so these are specifically for washing the membranes? Okay, okay. And we're just washing them more aggressively now, or?
We wash them like twice a year, so sometimes you won't see anything in that account until like 6 months.
Okay.
When we purchase them all at one day.
Okay, and I only ask because, you know, we're just $2 under the approved budget for the year. So I mean, like, maybe we bought them all at once, and you know, this will be, just thought I'd check.
Yeah, I have most of them in stock, but there may be like maybe 4 more barrels that I might have to buy.
Okay, okay. So did the chemicals just come in more expensive, or?
Check back.
Okay.
I think they're about the same.
Okay, if we could just get a little bit of a blurb on that, it would be just nice, you know, for that. And then, yeah, I noticed we haven't bought any cartridge filters. Is that, am I drawing my line right? 1 moment, sorry.
Yes, we have some in stock. Some cartridge filters in stock already.
Okay, so it's not a supply chain issue or anything else? Okay, okay. those are my questions.
Do you want us to report back at the next board meeting, or would you just like an email sent to the members of on yours, that way staff knows what the expectation is on reporting back to you?
Let's start with just an email and so we can see what the
To the full.
information is, to the full board, yeah. Although you have to blind copy this, right? Yeah.
BCC him, so that way you both, none
That
of
way
you
we don't
respond back.
accidentally respond to the whole board. Yeah.
So
Okay,
when you,
awesome.
please copy, executive manager, when you do copy them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so before we do anything else, yeah, so we're going to move on to other parts. But one of the things that we talked about at the last meeting was the fact that you guys were changing some of the chemical dosing because we had some yellow water in the nearby neighborhoods. And so I've been thinking about this a lot last month. Since we are, changing our process for this kind of variable, it's an unmeasured, uncontrolled variable, is there some way we can bring that into our analysis? So maybe reporting how many complaints we have about yellow water per month, or some other piece of information that will allow us to judge how well these changes are working, and so we can again try to control our chemical dosing as quantitatively as possible. And I don't have the best answer. I think we're going to stab in the dark a couple times, but just something quantitative.
Yeah, because as you were able to see, and we can go back to the, yeah, I think so.
I mean, about this, he's not here, it's jury duty, but finding where we can get more samples, that might tell us why it's yellow, and it might tell us what's causing it, so.
Without a doubt, water samples would be the
Yeah.
best way to go. And if we're willing to do that, that would be great.
Yeah, so we're trying to coordinate that.
Oh, okay, that would be awesome.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, if you can see, right here at point of entry, this is the water actually going into the city, right? And yellow water in a groundwater system is basically due to the iron content in the water, right? So if you can see right here, these are the readings, and this is a third party that we send for analysis, right? They're less than 0.00379, which basically they're non-detect. The instrument cannot detect a reading below that. So I can actually say that there's no iron going out there, right? But knowing that this is a groundwater system, I know there's a traces of iron actually going into the system and eventually settling in the lines. And when there's a disturbance in the lines, that sediment, gets stirred, and some of that water makes it into some of the houses in the north side of town. We can reduce even more, and basically we reduce even more by decreasing our blend water. And by decrease, because the blend water is the one that carries some of those traces of iron, right? But if we were to decrease the blend water, that means that our costs are going to increase, because then we will need to stabilize the water with other chemicals. So yes, we can fix that problem, but it might increase our chemical budget, especially on the calcium, because that's the chemical we use for the stabilization of water.
Right, and that's exactly my thought is, whatever we do, I just want it to be quantifiable. I want to know that with these inputs, I change this, and I get this change at my output, and I want to know we're measuring it. And so, the idea that, yes, our iron as tested right now is below
The detectable level.
Yeah, detectable level, which is great.
Yeah.
Unless, I guess, people need a lot of iron in their diet.
Yeah.
But, we just, anything we can do to measure the effect of what we're doing here, so that we're not kind of changing chemicals here without really understanding what's happening in the real world. So Yeah, and so the testing of the water will be a great next step. But, you know, I really want there to be a good argument if we increase dosing of any type of chemical.
Right.
I want there to be a good argument for it. Not against it, I just, you know,
Right.
we should have a reason for spending that money.
The normal cure for sediment in the lines is flushing,
Mhm.
which is something we're trying to minimize due to the water
Right.
shortage.
Yeah,
So, balancing it.
yes, without a doubt.
Yes, that was another way that we wanted to address this issue by implementing a flushing schedule, especially here at the north side. So we can actually, maybe once a month, just flush the lines that will give us issues when something happens in the system. They'll be proactive on the
That's-
flushing.
That's pretty significant, yeah.
Yeah.
Might be interesting to, it would probably be too much overhead, but work that out with like the master gardeners and stuff, because they always have places they're trying to water, so. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does the weather affect, like the flooding and all that, on the disturbance of the water when you see the water in different colors, or?
No, usually what disturbs the water in the lines is an increase in velocity. You know, the water is running through the lines at a certain velocity. But if there's, let's say, an example, a water break, the water is gonna be rushing towards the break. So that's gonna increase the velocity of the line, disturbing the sediment. So once they isolate the line, that water is gonna be stirred and it's gonna go out somewhere. And that's when the customers, and this is not like a health concern, it's more of a aesthetic issue, right? Sure.
Yeah, and then they close the valve, so you've got still water, and then you open the valve, you got it running again, so it's a disturbance inside the lines.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, we'll move on to the Southwest Regional Water Authority Quarterly Investment Report for the quarter ended in March 31st, 2025, pursuant to Chapter 2256.023 of the Public Funds Investment Act. And
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. My name is Miriam Camacho. I'm the Treasury and Accounting Manager for the Accounting and Treasury Department. I'll be going over the quarterly investment report for the quarter ended March 31st, 2025. Starting with the table on your screen, just want to state that the investment portfolio comply with the PFIA and the SRW's approved investment policy and strategies throughout the quarter. I'll be going over the asset class, market value, percentage of portfolio, and yield to maturity, starting with column A, bank deposits and collateral deposits. That would have a market value at the end of the quarter of $760,881.92. With a percentage of our portfolio of 5.41 and a yield to maturity of 4.14. Continuing with the certificates of deposit with a market value of $3,351,000 and a portfolio percentage of 23.83 and a yield to maturity of 4.67. Our investment pools had a market value at the end of the quarter of $8,023,897.83. A percentage of our portfolio was of 57.5 and a yield to maturity of 4.45. Lastly, it would be the market value, money market fund with the market value of $1,928,622.62 with a percentage of our portfolio of 13.71% and a yield to maturity of 4.26. This page has a detailed distribution by class asset. I'll be going over columns A, H, and I. Starting with the description, bank deposits had a market value of $760,881 with 92 cents, and the yield to maturity ranging from 1.65 through 4.17. Continuing with certificates of deposit, column H, with the market value of $3,351,000 and the yield to maturity ranging from 4.30 through 5.60. Our investment pools, with the market value of $8,023,897 with 83 cents, and our yield to maturity ranging from 4.51 to 5.29, and our money market accounts with a market value of $1,928,622 with 62 cents, and a yield to maturity of 4.26. The following pages is just a detail of the information I just provided. This concludes my presentation. Anyone has any questions or wants me to go into details on the following graphs?
How much crypto? No. No, this is great.
It's not allowed for our
Good. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, this will be the fun one. Okay, now we're moving on to Mr. Garza and the well rehabilitation timeline update. Should be in the next couple of days. Started to. Oh, wow. What are you guys?
Mr. President, members of the board, as far as an update on the well rehab, well, it has started. The contractor is on site, and at this point, they're doing the pump testing. Actually, they started with the pump testing like before, and they're gonna do the afterwards. This afternoon, they're gonna be pulling the pump. They're gonna be pulling our existing pump and motor out, and then they're gonna follow by doing like a brushing and a chemical cleaning. And then on Thursday and Friday, that's when they're gonna actually start that aqua-free process, the carbon dioxide process. That's gonna be done this Thursday and Friday. After that, they're gonna install the pump again and do another testing. That's when we're gonna actually see the difference of before and after. After that, once we get the new yield, we're gonna be able to evaluate if it worked, if it didn't work, or how much of an increase in yield that we obtain after this process. I guess once the team is gonna get together, determine whether it's gonna be feasible to go into the second and third well. So hopefully by the next meeting, we can have a number and the actual report and how much it increased or not.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
And this first well you're gonna try is
It's well 16. That's a moderate well, a moderate loss well in the yield. It's not the worst one, not the best one. It's kind of one in the middle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Any
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this one. And the last item, Mr. Flores is going to tell us how great we're doing with the drought.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. So I don't have better news. But as of last week, U.S. combined ownership at Amistad and Falcon reservoirs, April 26, 2025 was 20.9%. Again, we're seeing a slight decrease over the month. From April 5th, we had 21.4%, April 12th, 21.2%, and April 19th, 20.9%. So all the rain that we got at the end of March actually didn't translate into any changes in the reservoir levels. The National Weather Service May to July 2025 outlook for the Rio Grande Valley, Deep South Texas region. An average to hotter than average outlook is favored during the May through July 2025 timeframe. Meanwhile, precipitation remains a toss-up across the region. Although there will be many dry days through July, there could be bouts of showers and thunderstorms that should keep the precipitation surplus deficit in balance. Showers and thunderstorms that could produce heavy rainfall and localized flooding has to continue to be taken into consideration. Through July. Rains from a tropical cyclone such as Alex in 2010 would change this. The 2025 Atlantic hurricane season is expected to be slightly above average, though a lean towards being less active across the RGV Deep South Texas region compared to 2024. And last year we didn't get very much precipitation at all. NOAA's outlook comes out in late May. So again, water conservation is key until further notice. Stage 2 to 3 restrictions continue through early spring 2025 and are likely to continue until further notice based on inflows from Amistad and Falcon. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And so now on to the final item, the discussion of the date, time of the next board meeting. And, yeah.
So right now, we have the SRWA meeting scheduled for the June 2nd. And if there's any conflicts or anything, let us know, we can accommodate. And the TV board meeting for yourself, and it is on June the 9th. Anytime if you want me to make a presentation with respect to governing bodies, we'll be happy to do so. I mentioned that a few months ago, but we have not gone back, and we'll be happy to present on the drought, the status, the plans, anything that we're working on, expansions that you all have seen. And I know that all of y'all have been very active here, but I'm not sure how much information has trickled back to respective governing bodies.
Okay, well, with that in mind, I will entertain any motions to adjourn the meeting.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second, Mr. President.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.